The sledgehammer felt heavy in Marcus Webb's hands as he stood before the dilapidated Victorian house on Maple Street, the same house where he'd spent the first 12 years of his life before everything fell apart. He'd come back to tear it down, to erase the memories of poverty and pain that still haunted his dreams. But as he pushed open the warped front door, a sound stopped him cold, a child's whimper echoing from somewhere upstairs. Marcus had made his fortune in commercial real estate, turning rundown properties into profitable ventures across 3 states. This house, however, wasn't about profit. It was about closure. His mother had lost it to foreclosure 20 years ago, and he'd tracked down the current owner, a holding company that had let it decay into near collapse. The purchase had been easy. The demolition permit was approved. All that remained was to swing the first blow. The November air bit at his face as he stepped inside. Peeling wallpaper hung like dead skin from the walls. The floorboards groaned beneath his boots, and the smell of mildew mixed with something else, something that made his stomach turn. Rot, abandonment, despair. He'd expected all of this. What he hadn't expected was that sound. It came again, clearer now. A soft crying, then a hushing voice, young but trying to sound comforting. Marcus's heart began to pound. He set down the sledgehammer and climbed the stairs, each step protesting under his weight. The second-floor hallway stretched before him, doors hanging open to reveal empty rooms stripped of everything valuable long ago. "Hello." His voice cracked the silence. The crying stopped abruptly. "Is someone here? I'm not going to hurt you." A door at the end of the hall, his old bedroom, clicked shut. Marcus approached slowly, his mind racing through possibilities. Squatters. Teenagers looking for a place to party. But that crying had sounded so young, so scared. He pushed open the door. In the corner, huddled beneath a stained blanket, were 2 children. A girl, maybe 10 years old, clutched a boy who couldn't have been more than 6. Their faces were dirty, their clothes several sizes too small, and their eyes held a wild, cornered animal fear that Marcus recognized from his own childhood. "Please don't take us back," the girl whispered, her arms tightening around her brother. "Please. We'll leave. We didn't mean to break in. We'll go somewhere else." Marcus felt his knees weaken. He crouched down slowly, keeping his distance. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. What are your names?" The girl's jaw set stubbornly, but the little boy, his thumb in his mouth, mumbled, "I'm Eli." "Eli, that's a good name." Marcus kept his voice gentle. "I'm Marcus. This used to be my house when I was about your age. Are you hungry?" The question seemed to break something in the girl. Her defiance crumbled, and tears spilled down her cheeks. She nodded. Marcus stood carefully. "Okay. I'm going to go get some food. Real food. And I'm coming back. You can stay right here, warm and safe. I promise I'm coming back." 20 minutes later, he returned with bags from the diner 2 blocks over, burgers, fries, hot chocolate, apple pie. The children were still there, though they'd moved closer to the door, ready to bolt. When they saw the food, hunger won over fear. As they ate, the story emerged in fragments. The girl's name was Maya. Their mother had left them with their grandmother 6 months ago and never came back. When their grandmother died 3 weeks ago, they'd run from the apartment before anyone could find them and separate them into foster care. They'd been hiding in abandoned buildings ever since, and Maya had broken into this house 5 days ago because she remembered it had a working water faucet in the basement. "The lady at the store said they'd split us up," Maya explained, her voice hollow. "They always split up brothers and sisters. I can take care of Eli. I've been doing it this whole time." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. He saw himself in this fierce little girl, saw the same desperate determination he'd carried when his own family had fractured. He remembered making similar promises to his younger sister, promises he'd been too young and powerless to keep. "Listen to me," he said, and both children looked up at him with those haunted eyes. "I need to make some calls. There are good people who can help. I know you're scared, but running like this, it's not sustainable. It's November. It's getting colder. And you're both so young. You're going to call the police." Maya's voice turned bitter. She grabbed Eli's hand. "We should go." "Wait." Marcus held up his hands. "What if I could make sure you stayed together? What if I could find a way?" "There is no way," Maya said flatly. Adults always lie about stuff like that. The certainty in her voice gutted him because he'd said the same thing once. But he wasn't that powerless kid anymore. He had resources, connections, and something he'd spent 20 years building, the kind of influence that could move bureaucratic mountains. He pulled out his phone. Give me 48 hours. Just 2 days. Stay here, where it's dry. I'll bring food, blankets, space heaters. Let me try. Maya studied him with eyes far too old for her face. Why would you help us? You don't even know us. Because someone should have helped me when I was your age, Marcus said simply. And nobody did. The next 48 hours blurred into a whirlwind of phone calls, meetings, and favors called in. Marcus contacted his attorney, his state representative, and 3 different child welfare advocates. He reached out to Sarah Chen, a social worker he'd met at a charity event, who walked him through the Byzantine process of emergency foster care and kinship placement. You're serious about this? Sarah asked during their third conversation. You understand what you're proposing. The background checks, the home studies, the court appearances. I'm serious, Marcus said. These kids need stability. They need each other. And I have the means to provide that. He'd started the process to become their emergency foster parent, leveraging every connection he had to expedite the paperwork. His penthouse apartment was already too cold, too sterile for children, so he'd put a down payment on a house in a good school district, a warm, solid house with a backyard and bedrooms that didn't echo with ghosts. When he returned to the Victorian on Maple Street, he found Maya teaching Eli to read using an old newspaper. The sight stopped him in the doorway. I have news, he said. Maya's shoulders tensed, but she met his eyes. Yeah, the state has approved me as an emergency foster placement. If you're willing, you can both come stay with me while we work through the permanent arrangements. Together. You won't be separated. Eli's face lit up, but Maya's remained cautious. For how long? As long as it takes. Maybe forever, if that's what you want. I'm also in the process of becoming a licensed foster parent, and eventually, if things work out. He paused, the word almost too heavy to speak. Adoption. But only if that's what you both want. No pressure. We'll take it one day at a time. Maya's composure finally shattered. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that sounded like they'd been locked away for months. Eli crawled into her lap, and Marcus sat down beside them on the dusty floor, this unlikely family taking shape in the ruins of his past. 6 months later, Marcus stood in front of the house on Maple Street again, but this time Maya and Eli were with him. The demolition was finally happening, but he'd saved the curved oak banister, the stained glass window from the landing, and the brass doorknob from his old bedroom. These pieces would go into their new home, his new home with his children, as reminders that beautiful things could be salvaged from broken places. Are you sad to see it go? Maya asked, slipping her hand into his. The wariness had faded from her eyes, replaced by something that looked like trust, like hope. No, Marcus said honestly. I thought I needed to destroy it to move on. But what I really needed was to find you two inside it. Sometimes the things we think will break us are actually preparing us for what comes next. As the excavator's arm swung toward the house, Eli cheered, and Maya laughed, a real laugh, light and young and free. Marcus pulled them both close, watching the walls fall away, knowing he was finally, truly home.